Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our October 28th, 24 regular meeting of Belleville City Council. The City of Belleville acknowledges we are meeting today on the traditional territory. We recognize and honor the historic relationship of Indigenous peoples to this land and acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within. We recognize all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit who call Belleville their home and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with them. We look forward to fostering a path towards reconciliation and show respect for the Indigenous peoples who first lived and currently live on the land where we all now reside together. I will call this meeting to order. Councillor Thompson will be arriving late, and Councillor Chatton is not here also. Please remain standing for a moment of reflection from Deputy Clerk Katie McPherson.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only with what will promote good government. May we bring to council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. And I'd like to point out our new councillor here, Margaret Sue. Congratulations and thanks for being here today, and thanks for all you do. I need a motion for regular council meetings minutes of October 15th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Discussion, all in favor? Carried. Deputation. Scott Wanamaker, Chairman of the Belleville Property Fund Committee, is here to present myself with a poppy, and I see we have some other people here also. So everybody, Mike and Terry.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. Good afternoon, councillors. My name is Scott Wanamaker. I'm Belleville Poppy Chair this year. With me, I have President of the Army Navy Air Force, Mr. Terry Law, and President of the Royal Canadian Legion, Mike Benson. So on behalf of the Belleville Poppy Fund, we'd like to present you with your poppy this year.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for all you do in our community. The Poppy Fund means a lot to all of us, and to my family also. My dad was a World War II veteran, as you know, and served, and there's a lot of serving members still here and members that have served in the past, so thanks for all the good you do. And I don't know if you want to make a pitch here at all for us tonight, or?
I didn't really have anything
Okay.
prepared.
Yeah,
other than the campaign has started, and we had a very successful weekend, so thank you for everything, all your support to the Belleville Poppy Fund. It all goes to a very, very good cause, as we all know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Picture of the three of you, sorry.
Yep. In there?
We'll give you social media today for you. Oh, I'll put you in the center.
There you go.
Fattest guy in the center, right?
Ready?
Perfect, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to receive. Councillor Brown, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor? Carried. Next, we have our Treasurer, Brandon Ferguson, Director of Finance, is here to make a presentation to Council.
Good evening. I'll just wait for the presentation to load for you. Okay, I'm very pleased to be here today to provide a brief overview of the 2025 capital budget and 10-year capital plan. This will be deliberated on November 18th at the special council meeting at 1 o'clock. And I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank the leadership team as well as finance staff who worked diligently to bring this capital plan together. If there's any questions throughout, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay, the capital budget specifically looks at the capital expenditures of the city. These are things such as road reconstructions, building renovations, vehicle purchases, and more. This year, the city's also undertaken a 10-year capital plan to outline capital expenditures and a financial strategy to align with the city's asset management planning process. This started the process early this year. Additional budget content, website development, educational emails, and public survey engagement to inform the process. The initial 2025 public engagement survey was completed in June, and we utilized this to guide the process. The 2025 capital budget and 10-year capital plan are currently posted online, and a survey to elicit feedback on the content will be available until November 4th. Following this, we'll provide the full report of the community engagement process on the budget page and for consideration of council at the November 18th meeting. So please visit www.belleville.ca/budget to review these documents and have your say. The proposed projects for the 2025 capital budget, as well as the 10-year capital plan, were developed with consideration for the council guidelines that were established at the July 8th council meeting, council priority identification, community engagement feedback, and very importantly, the city's corporate asset management plan. Overall, the feedback and objectives were fairly consistent and are largely focused on ensuring investment in core infrastructure, areas such as roads and underground infrastructure, as well as making prioritized investments based on risk. As mentioned, the city strives to manage asset maintenance and renewal investments based on risk. This is a continual process in the development of the update to the city's asset management plan. And the risk rating involves the review and assessment of the likelihood as well as consequence of failure for our infrastructure. Of good news, the approximate $3.3 billion worth of infrastructure, only a small percentage is considered very high risk. And the city's focused on appropriate interventions throughout the budget as well as the 10-year capital plan to ensure these are addressed. So for the 2025 capital budget, the draft budget currently sits at $53.6 million. You'll notice this is a reduction from 2024, which was actually a total of $72.3 million. And you'll see the spikes there. The change is primarily driven by the large shift from the Avonlow pump station that was approved in 2024. And we have a more focus on renewal portfolio during the 2025 year. This, as can be noted and in line with the guidelines, you can see a majority of the investment is focused on core infrastructure, transportation, water, wastewater, and stormwater, making up 75% of this year's capital investment. Also of importance is the increased level of investment in city facilities, as well as fleet and equipment. These investments have increased in 2025 to address important renewal needs in line with the city's asset management planning needs. The budget portfolio, as mentioned, is more focused on asset maintenance and replacement, with highlighted projects such as full combined service reconstructions for Bridge Street East, Octavia and Henry Street, continuation of our road rehabilitation program, and various underground infrastructure relining programs. Another highlight is the Myers Pier rehabilitation or repair scheduled for 2025. The 2025 capital program is more focused on renewal activities, with approximately 80% of the capital investment on renewal compared to 20% in 2024. With this, we are seeing more pressures on internal reserve funds and less on growth funding areas, such as long-term debt or development charges, as can be identified in the slide. A more in-depth review of the individual funding components will be provided at the November 18th budget presentation. So moving into the 10-year capital plan, this includes significant investment in both renewal and growth projects over the 10-year period. A focus on asset maintenance and replacement, again, in the 10-year capital plan was undertaken to ensure we're adequately managing the city's infrastructure risks. A total of $1.1 billion is projected to be spent, with combined services and road renewals being a main focus at over $340 million portfolio. Another important component of the project is a significant renewal as well as expansions in the wastewater portfolio. With respect to asset maintenance and replacement programs, some highlights include various major reconstruction projects. We'll be looking at undertaking Church Street reconstruction, Pinnacle Street water main replacement, Victoria Avenue water main replacement, Old Highway 2 reconstruction from Hague to Point Anne, as well as the complete reconstruction of Phillipston Road, amongst others. Other major and important renewal projects planned include rehabilitation work for Myers Pier as well as the wastewater treatment plant. The continuation and escalation of roads resurfacing and underground relining programs is a highlight as well, with an investment of over $90 million over the 10-year period. New acquisitions are proposed in line with the asset management plan, as well as the strategic plan and several approved growth plans. Significant growth investments include a very important wastewater treatment plant expansion to manage both growth and capacity issues. Continued investment in the Loy secondary plan area for residential growth needs through the Avonlow Road redevelopment project. Industrial growth investments focused on continued expansion activities in the Northeast Industrial Park, as well as planned investment in the Belleville East Arterial Overpass and road servicing, usually referred to as the BEAR. And also of importance, continued investments in the Parks and Recreation Master Plan projects. In developing the financing strategy, the annual increases outlined in the asset management plan have been utilized. This includes an investment of annually 2.3% tax levy increase to our reserve fund contributions. Ensuring reserve funds do not run into a deficit is our primary aim of the strategy, with secondary objectives to improve the target balances that have been approved within the city's reserve fund policy. Under the proposed program, overall reserve targets are improving to ensure management of financial capital risks across the portfolio. Debt and development charges are also important funding sources, primarily attributed to the new acquisition and growth portfolio, and have been managed within the city's policy requirements. To guide the overall level of investment, the asset management plan estimated levels of capital renewal and growth needs were utilized. The overall capital forecast delivers just under the target at $1.104 billion, with a focus on more aggressive renewal activities to ensure we're managing risk. So as mentioned, the 2024 capital budget, 10-year capital plan deliberations will take place on November 18th at 1 p.m. in council chambers. I encourage everyone to visit www.belleville.ca/budget, take the survey, and review the information available.
Thank you for the update. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I need a motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Wright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Correspondence. Request for funding from the Humane Society. Letter for funding. A resolution that the request for funding from the Humane Society be received and referred to the 2025 operating budget. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Enright Miller. Questions? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. With regards to the referral to the budget meeting, I'd ask that the staff report include a copy of the current contract and an outline of legal obligations and provincial legislation and whether the current contract meets those legal requirements, and also staff to provide analysis of whether the impound fee under our fees and charges bylaw is adequate. Thank you.
Okay. Did the clerk get all that info, or do you want it in writing? Okay, perfect. Thank you, Councillor Carr. With that, I need a resolution to go in committee of the whole. Council rise and go committee of the whole to hear and consider reports, passing, and recommendations and resolutions. Yes, Councillor.
Sorry, Your Worship, I just had a comment.
Oh.
Is that okay?
Right, Miller.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I've spoken about this before with the pound numbers, but I'm happy to see it go to budget deliberations. I would just further comment on Councillor Carr's motion. If staff could look at the pound contract for Quinte West and compare it to Belleville when we're looking at that contract, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wright Miller. Okay, so I need Council to rise and go committee of the whole to hear and consider reports, passing recommendations and resolutions with Councillor Millett in the chair. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Chatton. All in favor? Carried. And I think Councillor Millett wants me to stay in the chair for the first one, as he has come.
Thank you, Your Worship. And did you get a motion for that one yet? Okay.
This chair very often, so I'm rusty here.
All right.
So somebody to move the resolution as read, Councillor Chapman, seconded by Councillor Wright Miller. Councillor Millet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and this is the report 8A1, refers to strategic corporate sustainability and climate action planning, and it's a report by Amanda Azzopardi, our environmental coordinator, formerly environmental coordinator. I better get her current position correct as it refers to this. One moment, please. Anyway, Amanda, the report is before you. This is a very high-level report. There are no action items at this point. This is clearly to educate council, and this report's meant to serve as a starting point for the cities previously committed to the Partners for Climate Protection program under the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Those of you who were with us in 2021 will recall we put forward a climate and declared a climate emergency in 2021 that set in motion a number of actions, including in 2022 the city committed to the P4P climate, or the PCP climate program, which is part of the 5 milestone commitment towards climate action. The first of which, and we're moving towards that, finally, in my estimation, is the gathering of information to gather together all of our corporate greenhouse gas inventories, seeing which departments emit which are saving which. And prior to this exercise, we had various departments going about climate change mitigation actions in silos, if you will. This is bringing it all together, the strategic plan to work internally with other departments to compile and capture some of the sustainability and green initiatives that the city was already doing, but it was, as I said, different departments were off doing them in their own manner. This exercise has opened the door for conversations and developed a general understanding of the direction needed to make moving forward and meeting our sustainability and climate action targets. Using this document as a guide, staff will build off discussions to put together an internal working group to develop strategic priorities and begin data collection for a corporate GHG inventory, greenhouse gas inventory. So it develops, in essence, next steps to move forward for the city when it comes to climate action. And you know, with the assistance from the Clean Air Council, experts as needed, assisting staff, this is all part of our department in engineering and development services. Desta McAdam is here. She's working as well, and on this file. So, you know, it's finally getting things. We had the Green Task Force, of which I'm chair, and Councillor M. Wright Miller is a member. We're working on individual groups, individual initiatives, such as tree plantings, community gardens, the litter trap, some of these programs. This is a broader scale, department-wide concept of meeting our climate action goals and targets. So if anybody doesn't have any questions, I wholeheartedly request your support of this, receiving this report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Millet. Anybody else? Do you want to trade spots here?
No, Councillor Miller is
You can do the rest, though. You can call the vote.
Yeah, I can do the rest.
You're not gonna find your whole job out.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair.
And Wright Miller, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to piggyback on your words about this climate action plan, and I'd also like to thank Amanda Azzopardi, our sustainability coordinator, as well as Desta McAdams, for all their hard work on this. And I encourage everyone to look at the Strategic Sustainability and Climate Action Guide document for the City of Belleville. It shows how ethically and morally this guide has been put together for the city to move forward. And we all know and hear about climate change in the world and the weather around the country and the globe, and it's evident that there will only be more restrictions and benchmarks to adhere to moving forward to combat this crisis. And it's terrific that our executive management team have all met and shared current practices and developed this guide, and realized that a lot of initiatives were already in place, as you said, kind of in silos, but now they're all on the same plan. We have a responsibility on the corporate and community level to reduce greenhouse gases and emissions by altering our behaviors and inputting governance to guide us. By the buy-in of the city, this proactive approach has been implemented and putting its tools in place to provide a counteraction climate change. And this is a great roadmap that we can all use for long-term success. So I encourage everybody to have a look at it, have a read, and good job for all our city members. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Item 8A2, City of Belleville Museum Services Advisory Committee, Terms of Reference. The motion reads that pursuant to the Manager of Museum Services Report number MMS 2024-01, City of Belleville Museum Services Advisory Committee, Terms of Reference, the new terms of reference be approved, and that the committee be renamed the Museum Services Advisory Committee, and that a bylaw be prepared for councilors' consideration. Councilor Brown, second. Councilor Enright Miller. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. 8A3, Physician Retention Initiatives. And the motion reads that report number MPRR 2024-22 from the Manager of Physician Recruitment and Retention be received and approved, and further that the recommendations in the report be brought back to council for consideration during 2025 budget deliberations. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Kelly, any questions, comments? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the Manager of Recruitment and Retention. In the report, it talks about jurisdictions with better compensation models. I'm just curious as to where they are and what those models may be.
Through the chair to Councillor Carr. So every jurisdiction has a different compensation model. They are very difficult to compare. Some are better in some aspects, some are not as good in other aspects. But if we look at some changes that have been recently made to compensation paid to family physicians in British Columbia, some on the East Coast, in the Eastern Maritime provinces, they have significantly changed their funding structure so that physicians are paid better in those locations. If you take a look at what physicians are paid in the U.S., in many jurisdictions, our system here pales in comparison.
Okay, thank you. I have no issue with, certainly referring this over to the 2025 budget, but I know that the report clearly outlines caution in the fact that, municipalities shouldn't be in the business of funding physicians. And, here we are, $7.5 million invested thus far into recruitment. And it's interesting that when we see our local MPPs celebrate that recruitment every time that we spend municipal tax dollars, really and truly, it's a failure on behalf of the province for not fulfilling their responsibilities and providing primary care in Ontario. So they're actively and publicly encouraging the municipality to continue to fund primary care. And this is a slippery slope that if we continue, we're inviting the downloading. It's interesting, recently they announced that they were reconfiguring the medical schools, that 95% of medical spots would be for Ontario residents and only 5% would be open for international. I know math is hard for some, but there's only 3,000 spots and 9 belong to international students. So already well within the 5%. And then to suggest that they're opening more spots. Well, reconfiguring the same number is not opening more spots. I know personally of individuals who've applied to medical schools throughout the province of Ontario and been declined, and they're looking to go to the U.S. You know, some have dual citizenship, which allows them that flexibility, and certainly may be successful there. I've also heard of cases where we have Ontario residents who couldn't get in, who have now went elsewhere and have received that certification, but cannot get certified in Ontario, or certainly takes a year or better to do it. I'm no scientist, but I think the human body is pretty universal, and whether you have an ailment in another part of the world or one here, the physician should be qualified to be able to handle that medical concern. So really what it comes down to is bureaucracy. Whether the College of Physicians and Surgeons want to increase the licensing, and the province wants to open new medical spots, or is it simply trying to create scarcity in order to not spend the money, or two, to make higher demands? The other thing, and I won't belabor this any longer, other than we should also be cautious of the fact that the Ontario Medical Association, which represents doctors, is currently in negotiations. The province indicated a 3% pay increase was adequate. The Medical Association was looking at much higher, and they ended up getting an arbitrated award of 10%, and that's only for the first year. There's still other years in this contract. So if we start inserting ourselves as municipalities into that negotiation, we're muddying the waters even more. I think, and the last point I'll make is it was interesting in the arbitration case where the province said that there was adequate physicians already, and that there was adequate space and everything was fine in the world. And the arbitrator was quick to point out, well, show us the numbers. And then when the province actually brought the numbers to arbitration, it shows what we all know is that there's a glaring void in terms of primary care in Ontario. So we just need to be cautious as we go. We can certainly debate this more at budget time, but I'm concerned about us funding or doing things beyond what we're already doing now, while the province sits back and our local MPPs applaud every time we spend tax dollars bringing doctors to our area. Thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just wanted to follow up with some thoughts about healthcare in the province after Councillor Carr. In our report, thanks to Manager Karen Post, if you go to page 46, and hopefully those that are watching or following the meeting today, in the financial analysis, the one sentence that kind of hits home, I think, for all of us, the fact that healthcare is a provincial responsibility cannot be overstated. So when we do the lay of the land for the city of Belleville, depending on what week you're talking about, could be anywhere from 12 to 14,000 people without primary care. What does that do to a family or an individual's mental health? Comes full circle. They have to go to the emergency department, wait for hours to get treatment. So when you have 12 or 14,000 people without primary care in your community, that to me is a number one issue. And we go back to the line, healthcare is a provincial responsibility. So in the report, the city is committed $7.5 million to recruitment programs since Mayor Ellis and his team back in the day started that. Just so everybody's on the same page with the costs of marketing, travel costs, donating to Belleville and Kingston hospitals, the city of Belleville for local health care is at $30 million now, roughly. Think of those figures. We know, we had the presentation here a few months ago, a group of local doctors talking about the challenges with paperwork, paying for their buildings, their student loans. We have 66 doctors here in Belleville, 45 of them with a family medicine clinical practice. There's challenges within that sector. Of the graduating class, if you will, that went through our doctor recruitment program, 87% are still practicing in the city. So I looked up some information from the province and what they could do differently or work with us. Healthcare spending per capita in Ontario is $4,889 per person. That's in Ontario. That is the lowest in Canada. $876 below the average of other provinces. Think of that. Ontario taxpayers, too, are the only ones in Canada paying a health tax on top of the provincial income tax. If you make $20,000 a year, you get charged the health tax. That's poverty, 20 grand a year. So that's about $5 billion a year that the Ford government is raking in. And again, we come back to the municipal level, asking for more from the taxpayer at the municipal level. And my interest is in the city of Belleville and the taxpayers. And it's time that the provincial government step up to the plate with some real money, real vision, and a commitment to people's health. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Within the conclusion document on page 49, the conclusion is we could provide some peripheral support to help ease the burden of the profession in the short term. And the comment "in the short term" is the operative word. When you look at our physician recruitment program, that Manager Post is doing a stupendous job in terms of recruitment of our physicians and nurse practitioners. That too, 10 years ago, was outlined as a short-term requirement. And here we are again, 10 years later, being faced with yet another recommendation. My concern is, and I think I echo the comments made here, is that if we step our toe into this once again, and I appreciate it's going to come for discussion at budget, if we put our toe in this pond again, it will be ours forever, no differently than physician recruitment. And the fact that physician recruitment has become almost a full-time position in every municipality in town across Ontario. It was also interesting to see that last week there was an announcement that Dr. Philpott was going to be given the physician recruitment and retention portfolio on behalf of the province, and that it was expected that within 5 years, every person that is currently unrostered with a primary care physician would have such within the next 5 years. So I appreciate the fact, and again, thank you, Manager Post, for highlighting consistently and boldly, literally boldly, that this is not a municipal responsibility, and that while we appreciate that we need to help our residents in some way, we also need to be careful. I believe the word was slippery slope. We went down that slippery slope with physician and recruitment, and now it's ours. And before we make the decision about going on around peripheral support, I appreciate where the doctors are coming from. And as an unrostered, no primary care person, family, I can appreciate how people are feeling. We feel it too. But I want to make sure that we are putting as much pressure on provincially. And so I fully support the first recommendation, which was that we take on an advocacy role, a very loud and very positive, community-based. We've seen what we can do through Heart Hubs. I'd like to be able to see us being able to put similar pressure on Dr. Philpott in the new role that she'll be taking on in December of this year. Thank you.
And I note that Dr. Philpott's daughter is practicing in our community, so we might have a leg up. Your worship.
And I just, again, great report, Manager Post on this, and a lot of information to digest, and especially with what the surrounding municipalities are doing for their retention. So I look forward to your report and budget. And I just wanted to, again, congratulate you on recruiting 10 doctors over 2 years of this council. And it just shows that your position directed towards doctor recruitment has paid off in spades. And I want to say that you introduced me to maybe number 11 today. So hopefully you can leave the meeting quick, because I know you have them out in your car tied up. So get that signature, Karen. So thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Item 8A4, former Queen Mary School Affordable Housing Project. And the motion reads that pursuant to Principal Planner Strategic Growth and Sustainability's Report Number SGS-2024-18, former Queen Mary School Affordable Housing Project. Council directs staff to conduct a public information center to gather public feedback on the alternative development option for the subject lands that would preserve up to 0.8 hectares or 2 acres of parkland prior to releasing a proposal package based on this option. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Chatton, any questions, comments on this item? Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Just a quick statement more than a question. I think this is a big talk to the residents of the area up there that we're following what they wanted from us. They want more consultation with the public, with the staff, and with the developers. And I know one of the developers is in the audience that's certainly interested, and he wants to do the right thing for the community. So, you know, all in, and I certainly encourage the residents to get a hold of us and the developers to get a hold of us and put their input. And it goes to show you to the public that we're listening to them, and we want to know what they want before we make a big decision. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And yes, included in the motion is the fact that there will be a public information center held to gather that information. We hope it's well attended. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, you know, certainly great that we're looking for public consultation. The question I have is, with option 2 that's being looked at here, there's a reduction in the number of units. Is there a way the city could consider increasing the maximum height to allow for more density to compensate for the greater green space?
I'll have Desta come. She's been involved with this.
Hi, through you, Mr. Chair. Potentially, I think the biggest thing is making sure that whatever is built is also appropriate in terms of transition to the existing community. We've put a maximum building height suggestion of six stories right now, based on what we've been working on as staff, trying to model what would fit in the area without creating that negative impact towards the surrounding low-density residential based on our official plan policies as it stands. I think that once staff are able to move forward to an expression of interest or a proposal stage, there would be, you know, some flexibility perhaps if what's proposed still can accommodate an appropriate integration and transition to the existing community. Right now, we think 6 stories would be what would be most appropriate for that corner, just based on the built context and what we've been able to model.
Okay, thank you. I do appreciate the fact that there's at least some flexibility. You know, certainly green space recreation is important, but we all know that we have a lot of folks in our community that are desperate for housing, and so as long as we can maximize the potential for people to have a place to live, I think that's critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. And I will go from my right. Councillor Kelly.
No, thank you.
Your worship.
No, thank you.
Councillor Chatton.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Brown.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sioux.
No, thank you.
Councillor Enright Miller.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Cart.
8B2, please.
8B2. And finally, Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you.
All right. We will move to item, pardon me? Yeah. Yes, can I have a motion that the consent items be approved with the exception of item 8B2? Counselor Enright Miller, Counselor Kelly. 8B2 then. Call a question. All in favor? Carried. Item 8B2. Thanks for the help from the peanut gallery. City of Belleville carbon tax costs. And the item reads that the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report number DF 2024-16, City of Belleville carbon tax costs be received. Councillor Carr, Councillor Chatton, Councillor Carr, you asked this to be brought.
Yes, thank you, and I appreciate the report from the director just outlining the carbon tax costs that have been incurred by the city since the program inception in 2019. And year to date from 2019 till now, it's just over $1.5 million. I'd like to actually make an amendment to the motion that in addition to receiving the report, the Mayor and Council of the City of Belleville requests that the Government of Canada create an efficient administrative program for municipalities to receive full reimbursement on direct carbon tax costs that are incurred providing essential and public safety programs and services for such things as fuel purchases for its fleet and equipment, as well as natural gas costs for heating facilities, and that this motion be sent to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for support, as well as Prime Minister of Canada Justin Trudeau, Minister of the Environment Stephen Guilbeault, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources Jonathan Wilkinson, President of the Treasury Board and Minister of Transport Anita Anand, Bay of Quinte MP Ryan Williams, Hastings, Lennox and Addington MP Shelby Cramp-Nyman, Premier of Ontario Doug Ford, MPP Tyler Alsop, and MPP Rick Barisi. And I'll speak to that once it's on the floor.
Councillor Chatton, that is an amendment to the original motion. You're supportive?
I support.
All right. Questions, comments? Councillor Carr, you've brought that lengthy motion. I trust you want to say a little more.
Thank you. And the Deputy Clerk does have a copy of that amendment. At the end of the day, taxing other levels of government with no rebate simply doesn't make sense. And as Council is aware that with the GST program, that when we pay for goods and services, that we get rebates on those that come back to us. Some at 100%, some less, but we get some rebate. And so taxing one level of government taxing another doesn't make sense as it's said around this table, and I think my colleague to the right has coined the term, there's only one taxpayer. And so municipal governments provide around-the-clock critical service for our economy to function, from road operations, transit, water, wastewater services to public safety. And as we've heard today, you know, the cities also undertake a number of environmental initiatives to lower their carbon footprint. We talked about the strategic corporate sustainability and climate action planning that we're undertaking. I know that we've undertaken electric buses. We do energy retrofits of buildings. We have a successful tree planting program that we have with nonprofit organizations, to name just a few. So we're doing our part to lower our carbon footprint, if you will, but the reality is municipalities have to function and have to have equipment out there in order for people to get to work and for our economy to function. And so similar to the GST program, simply calling on the federal government to create and the important thing is an efficient administrative program. We don't need cumbersome bureaucracy to then eat up that cost that need to come back to us. We have programs now with AMO and whatnot that are able to provide those direct costs back to us. And so this is simply allowing us then to not have to worry about paying that carbon tax to get that rebate back, that we can then turn around and use that money towards sustainability as well. So I think at the end of the day, it's just tax chasing tax, which is inefficient. So hope I can gain support, and I would ask for a recorded vote on this one, please.
Councillor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank Councillor Carr for the motion. I would fully support it because I think when we all looked at the amount of the carbon tax, our jaws probably dropped. And so thank you for bringing that forward.
Anyone else on this item? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, we've got a recorded vote, I'm sorry. And I will ask Deputy Clerk McPherson to please call the roll.
Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Councillor Chatton?
Yes.
Councillor Enright Miller,
Yes.
Councillor Kelly,
Yes.
Councillor Millet,
Yes.
Councillor Thompson,
Yes.
Mayor Ellis,
Yes.
Councillor Sue.
Yes.
The motion is carried. Oh,
Council.
my apologies, Councillor Brown. Yes, still carried.
Thank you. 8C, council information matters. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. And I will go the opposite direction. Councillor Thompson.
No, thanks.
Councillor Carr.
No thanks.
Councillor Enright Miller.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sue.
No, thank you.
Councillor Brown. Councillor Chatton.
My mic's not working. No, thank you.
Your worship.
No, thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
At this point, no thank you.
Look at that. And I will then call for the motion that information items be received. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor? Carried. And I'm general information. Oh, Rise and Report. Yeah, where am I? Oh, yeah. Sorry. There we go. 8D, can I have a motion to rise and report? Councillor Chatton, Councillor Enright Miller, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Millet. I need a motion for the following bylaws. First reading, bylaw 2024-180 and 181, moved by Councillor Enright Miller, Councillor Thompson, all in favor, carried. Second reading of bylaws and discussions, bylaw 2024-180 and 181, moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Discussion, all in favor, carried. And the third and final reading of 2024-180, 181, moved by Councillor Enright Miller, Councillor Thompson, all in favor, carried. New business. Motions. Councillor Carr. Yeah, I guess we'll just move the motion as read then. I was gonna get you to read it for me. So, Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Chatton. Discussion. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor. As the procedural bylaw outlines, yourself as mayor or council can develop ad hoc committees for specific purposes and for a timed exercise. And what I'm looking for here in this motion is to establish an ad hoc committee for the purpose of reviewing and recommending amendments to existing bylaws or recommend new bylaws in relation to littering, property standards, clean yards, and other public order and community standards bylaws. Just briefly, I know every year the Green Task Force initiates a community cleanup, and we compete with other municipalities to collect garbage and debris throughout our municipalities. And it's unfortunate that we have to do that. And some have just decided to take it upon themselves to allow our community to be a dumping ground. If you travel around the city, whether it's in the urban area, and I know in the rural area where there's not a lot of eyeballs, our ditches become dumping grounds for a lot of debris and garbage. And I know that I've been around, and it's astounding actually to see some of the garbage that's in the ditches. And in addition to that, we have commercial businesses here that are good stewards, and we have some that could do a little better. And I point to some of our commercial businesses where we see a lot of debris that blows off the parking lots and ends up going into our municipal ditches, of which then our transportation and operations staff have to spend the time and energy to go out and clean those ditches, that if individuals were responsible for cleaning their commercial properties, we wouldn't have to spend that time and effort and those tax dollars doing that. And cleaning these ditches is important because we know that, that's how we filter the water in our system, and some of these ditches feed into the Moira River, which cause bigger environmental concerns. The other side of it too, and I know some municipalities have taken upon themselves, City of Ottawa being one, where they've incorporated within some of these bylaws a shopping cart bylaw. You know, from time to time, I've seen where shopping carts are pulled out of the Moira River or out of ditches and scattered throughout our municipality. And we need to make sure that the corporate citizens that we have conducting business in our city are responsible for maintaining that type of product on their service or on their land, and not allowing it to be scattered throughout our community. The other side, another bylaw I've noticed is Cobourg has a bylaw that regulates some of the community services that are provided within the community, and regulate things such as garbage and debris if a service is provided. And I think that's something that we should get out in front of and look at. So simply what I'm looking for here, in addition to that, is some of our fine structure in relation to littering is probably not where it should be in terms of being a deterrent. And if we want to keep our community green and clean, we need to have the measures in which to enforce and to fine appropriately to deter people from throwing garbage in public spaces, because in the end it costs all of us the money of the cleanup, and again, it's not good for the environment. So the intent with the ad hoc is to be focused, to be timed, to bring back some amended bylaws for council's consideration, and hopefully the business would be done. So it's not something that's going to be belated for any length of time. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
I'm going to vote against the motion. I would, before I set up another ad hoc committee, I'd like to see the bylaws, to see what we have already, and see if we really need another ad hoc committee, because we have lots of ad hoc committees, or committees in our council. I just think it's adding work. I'm not saying it's not needed. I'd like to see the bylaws to see if it even talks to these first before I make another ad hoc committee. So, just my opinion.
Councillor Enright Miller, then Councillor Brown.
Sorry, Chair, I just have another announcement.
Councillor Brown.
I'd like to speak in support of the motion as presented. Ad hoc indicates that it has a shorter time frame. It's not a committee that's going to, like the other committees that are identified by the city, it's not going to go on forever. However, we've been doing a lot of organizational evaluation of bylaw enforcement. Many of these policies relate to bylaw enforcement. We've hired a new bylaw enforcement manager. I had the opportunity to meet Addie by chance, and a big task ahead of her. And I think that by striking this ad hoc committee and looking at these bylaws, that we would be in a much better position, much more successful position in terms of how do we approach these property standards and the fines that are associated with them. So I'm definitely in support of the motion.
Councillor Millett?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm generally in support of any bylaw or any strengthening of bylaws or re-examination of bylaws that examine the manner in which we police our littering and the various garbage disposal practices around our city. But as Councillor Brown just noted, we just in the past week or two brought online our new bylaw enforcement manager, and I'm just wondering if introducing this prior to seeing whatever she might bring to bear in terms of the same process might be duplicitous in possibly the committee, cart before the horse kind of thing. I'm not unsupportive of the notion. I just think I would possibly like to see the manager go about her work a little, have a little more time on the ground and get back before we begin implementing an ad hoc committee to look at the bylaws that she's been brought on online to help examine and possibly align herself. So, you know, I just don't want to be duplicating what staff has been brought on and a new position hired to perform.
A recorded vote too, please.
Anybody else? Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. With the ad hoc committee would be, I'm hoping, I can't speak for Councillor Carr, but I'm thinking it might be a short-term committee, take care of specific matters, and, you referenced, Councillor Carr, the, bylaw in Ottawa, and I think you referred to, shopping carts. I'm willing to support this, just that, maybe you can follow up just how you see this rolling out, who would be responsible, this ad hoc committee, for making what, would come under the bylaw, because the challenge with the shopping carts, I can, speak to it, is, I've had conversations with several of the, grocery store owners about that situation, and they do have some security devices on them where they can only go so far, but it doesn't always work. And 3 or 4 of the different grocery stores I've spoken to, they have hired folks to go out and get them. And those grocery carts, depending on the model, is anywhere from $300 to $500 per. So I would hate to see grocery stores getting slapped with another fine for having their carts that would be taken from their premise by someone that's using it for another reason or whatever. So maybe Councillor Carr can just confirm on me how he sees this shaping up.
Anybody else before I let Councillor Carr end this? Councillor Carr.
Thank you. I have one question for the deputy clerk. Could she just advise council as to how many ad hoc committees are currently underway? I know we have obviously the committees of council that are either legislative or policy, but do we have any ad hoc committees currently underway? The suggestion was we have a lot of them now. I'd just be curious. None come to mind for me, but I'd be curious to know that number.
I would have to report back with that number.
Okay. So just in summation, again, I know that, yes, I'm aware of the fact that there's a new bylaw manager that was just hired, but staff implement operational policy. Bylaws are enacted by council, and so if we need to strengthen bylaws or strengthen fines, that has to be developed here and passed here. Staff can't introduce or implement bylaws on their own. It has to be done here at the legislative side of things. And so my hope is that, yes, the new manager and director of corporate services is available as well, and then to get feedback from other departments that interact and have. I know that TOS is another one who's involved in a lot of this. Again, sharp focus. How do we clean up our community? And we need to strengthen some of our bylaws. This isn't about punishing, this is about correcting. And so, and at the end of the day, and I've, you know, maybe some are opposed to more work. I have no issue. Obviously, I've suggested this ad hoc committee. I hope to be on it. It'll be up to the mayor to appoint, but I'm willing to put in the work. Again, sharp focus. Allow us to review these, get some staff input, and bring it back to council in a reasonable time frame. And we'll also open up opportunities for consultation, obviously. So as Councillor Kelly points out, we want to hear from the business community and things that we can work cooperatively at. But at the end of the day, the focus is quite simple. Whether it's a private property or public property, it needs to be clean and it needs to be orderly. And if we want to put on a good image in our community, we need to focus on these things. So again, it's timed, it's focused, and the work will be done and back to council for recommendations. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I know Councillor Carr speaks last, but it's in response to a couple of statements the councillor made. When I said there's committees, I didn't mean ad hoc committees. If you want to interpret it as just ad hoc, it was committees in general. And secondly, I never turn down work, never have, 18 years. I do as much work here as anybody else. Ad hoc committee, I don't mind sitting on, but statements be made, let's keep them general. Thank you very much.
We're good? Call a vote?
I just have one comment. Your worship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, never mind.
Okay, call a vote.
Councillor Chatton?
Yes.
Councillor Enright Miller,
Yes.
Councillor Kelly,
Yes.
Councillor Millet,
No.
Councillor Sue,
Yes.
Councillor Thompson,
No.
Councillor Brown,
Yes.
Councillor Carr,
Yes.
Mayor Ellis. Yes. The motion is carried.
Notice of motions, Councilor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Ellis. I have a notice of motion here with respect to full disclosure of construction costs on new residential builds. Whereas the purchase price of new residential homes in Ontario has seen hyperinflated increases, making it unaffordable for most residents. And whereas municipalities are required to provide detailed information regarding the collection of charges and fees for new residential construction, including those outlined in the Development Charges Act. And whereas developers and builders have called for a decrease in government taxes and fees to reduce the costs of new residential builds. And whereas it cannot be determined or guaranteed whether any savings would have been passed on to the purchaser without the full disclosure of construction costs on new residential units. Now therefore the City of Belleville requests that the Government of Ontario pass legislation that requires all developers and builders to provide a full breakdown of construction costs on each residential unit. That full breakdown include costs related to land purchase, site development including water and wastewater infrastructure, foundation, framing, electrical, plumbing, truss and roofing, electrical, and all interior finishing, and that this breakdown clearly outline any factored reductions or savings, and that this information be publicly available for each new residential unit, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for distribution to its members for support, as well as the Premier Doug Ford, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing Paul Calandra, Bay of Quinte MPP Tyler Alsop, and Hastings, Lennox and Addington MPP Rick Barisi. Thank you.
Announcements. Councilor Enright Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to bring an announcement from the Police Services Board if I could, because October's been a very busy month. On October 7th, many of us were in attendance for Deputy Chief Chris Berry's retirement, and I just wanted to thank Chris for all his years of service and hopefully a new grandbaby very soon. On October 10th, I was honored to attend the change of command ceremony with Mayor Ellis to see past Chief Michael Callahan hand over the ceremonial staff to our new chief, Chief Murray Rod, and also the official appointment of Deputy Chief Sherry Meeks. This was a beautiful ceremony steeped in tradition. The choice of Chief Rod and Deputy Chief Meeks for these two positions was a great decision for the City of Belleville and this force. They will both be visible and accessible leaders who exemplify protection, vision, and balance for both their staff and this community. Not to mention they both have very big hearts and care deeply for the people of Belleville, which I'm learning. We are certainly in great hands with these two at the helm. On October 18th, I, along with Chief Rod, Deputy Chief Meeks, and Police Services Board Heather Smith, we attended in Kingston to the Kingston Police Force, and I wish you all had been with us. The Kingston Chief, Deputy Chief, and two officers spoke to us about the Kingston Integrated Care Hub and the incidents of September 12th where 2 people were killed and 1 seriously injured, forcing the closure of the hub and the encampment due to this investigation. We were given a tour of the hub facility, which it will soon be back open, and we learned an awful lot that day and saw firsthand how derailed a well-intentioned program could get. I would like to suggest that the offer has been made to us through the Kingston Police Force to invite their deputy chief and officers involved to meet either our council or the agencies involved with our care hub to learn what happened to them so we can put guardrails in place to try to prevent the same type of issues. We also met the manager of their hub who do the frontline work day to day, and they do a fabulous job. They too extended to us that they would be happily meet our groups to help them develop strategies that work in this type of facility. They have lived through the good, the bad, and we could certainly learn a lot from their successes and their failures. So I would like to see us reach out to them to set up a meeting, maybe of council, maybe of the people of the John Howard Society and all the agencies that are involved in the hub to share information and ideas, and I think we would all benefit from that. Thank you.
Councilor Enright Miller.
I would like to proclaim November as a Domestic Abuse Awareness and National Financial Literacy Month. Domestic economic abuse is a common but overlooked form of domestic violence that limits an individual's financial autonomy, including denying access and control over resources or constraining economic freedom. Barriers to economic resources undermine a survivor's independence, including the ability to flee abusive relationships. Economic abuse has detrimental effects on a survivor's mental and physical well-being and other social determinants of health. Economic abuse survivors have the right to be free from violence and must feel empowered to regain control over their lives. The Bridges Street Bridge, Fire Station 1 monument, and Belleville sign will be lit purple November 4th through 10th in honor of this cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sue. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have both a proclamation and an announcement. From November 1st to January 7th is Mothers Against Drunk Drivers Project Red Ribbon. Despite laws, police enforcement, and obvious risk of crashes, Canadians are still getting behind the wheel while impaired. Over half of all vehicular accidents in Canada are the result of impaired driving, and every hour, approximately 10 criminal charges and license suspensions are laid for alcohol or drug-impaired driving. More than 60,000 are injured, and around 1,500 are killed due to these impairment-related crashes every year. Project Red Ribbon is MAD's annual awareness campaign to promote sober driving during the holiday season, as it is often the busiest time of the year and the risk for impaired driving is high. The Bridge Street Bridge, Fire Station 1 monument, and the Belleville sign will be lit red from November 25th to December 1st in honor of this cause. And then also just a reminder that we will be holding we being Councillor Carr and I, will be holding our Ward 2 Town Hall on Thursday, November the 6th at the Jerry Masterson Community Center. It starts at 6:30 on the 6th. Key topics will be the capital budget, so we thank our Director of Finance for the update today. Also any other matters that are before Council, and as well as to spend some time Q&A. We've found in the past that 2 times a year to discuss budget wasn't enough time for all the Q&A periods. So we now do these town halls 4 times a year. Capital budget 1, operating budget, and then other topics as it relates. And it's a great opportunity for us to hear direct feedback from our residents about what's really important to them, to help Councillor Carr and I gauge how we can best represent our residents when we come to the table. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just wanted to say last Thursday, as part of the chair for the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Committee, I had a chance to attend the 10th anniversary of Belleville signing on to a declaration with the Canadian Coalition of Municipalities Against Racism and Discrimination. And it was the Belleville Inclusion Committee, and it was first chaired by Councillor Thompson 10 years ago, and under the leadership of then Mayor Ellis as well. And Dr. Aruna Alexander and Mary Hobbs, Quinte branch of United Nations, put on a great evening of education and conversation. I was fortunate to be there and do the land acknowledgement, and I believe that was the first public appearance as a councillor for Councillor Sue at this very special evening at the Grand last Thursday. And it was a wonderful celebration, so many different cultures, music, dress. It was really, you can see the change in our city over the last 10 years, and that was a wonderful celebration. And over the weekend, I just wanted to acknowledge the work of the coaches, the parents, the players, Belleville's Spirit basketball program. It's been around the city now since the late 80s. There's hundreds of boys and girls involved with this program. Think of the economic driver it is. Yesterday at Nicholson Catholic College, there was teams from all over in the city, staying at hotels, restaurants, doing shopping, all of that fun stuff. So just a shout out to the Belleville Spirits, all the folks that make that youth-driven sports league so successful. So thank you for your work. That's all I have for you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, just one announcement. Want to thank everybody that took part in the Cliff Belch Park on Friday and Saturday planting trees. The Bay of Quinte groups were there, the family was there, planted a lot of trees. That ground is harder than nails. I guarantee you that. I had a shovel in my hand until somebody took it away. I didn't mind doing the work neither. That's the nice part. But it was a great turnout, so just want to congratulate them.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson, and you could have built a toboggan hill when you were there.
Yes,
So, but,
there is one there.
Seeing there's no more announcements, proclamations are done. I need a confirmatory bylaw, a resolution that bylaw number 2024-182, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on October 28, 24, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 28th day of October 24. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Wright Miller. All in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff.